Our armed forces veterans aren't just the backbone of our nation. They represent the next generation of business continuity and resilience professionals. As they transition from military service into civilian careers, our field can benefit from their talents and experiences. The key is reaching out to show them that there's a career opportunity in the private sector that they are uniquely suited for. Good afternoon. I'm Russell Wooldridge, Senior Director of Business Development of DRI International and a former member of the United States Coast Guard. And I'm pleased to welcome you to the latest in our webinar series, where we focus on the important elements of the resilience community. Today, we'll hear what resilience professionals can learn from their colleagues with military experience, hiring advice for companies, tips for veterans thinking about careers in BCM and resilience, and much more. Joining the discussion today are Alan Lake, Colonel, United States Air Force retired, who will provide an overview of the DRI Foundation's Veterans Outreach efforts so far and its plans for the future. Jim Iacocca, Brigadier General retired and CEO of the Knoxville Regional Development Office, who will talk with DRI Foundation President Al Berman. And Amy Bennett, CBCP, and Ramon Signs, MBCP. They will share advice they learned on their journeys from military service to resilience careers. If you have any questions for our presenters, you can ask them in a box on the screen. Our speakers will answer them in the e-newsletter drive. First, here's Alan Lake to tell us a little bit more about DRI Foundation's outreach. Alan?
Thank you for having me today, and thank you all for listening in. Before we get started, I would like to thank the Veterans Outreach Program co-chairs, Chris Bigham and Catherine Cooper. They have done a wonderful job since taking over 2 years ago. My name is Alan Lake. I spent 25 years in the U.S. Air Force in a variety of career fields. Air traffic controller, aide-de-camp during President Clinton's administration, program manager on the B-1 bomber, training and education leader, and running bases. I commanded an Air Force base in Panama City, Florida, an Air Force base in San Antonio, Texas, and one in Baghdad. I was actually the mayor of Baghdad International Airport Forward Operating Base. In all those roles, I had responsibilities in continuity, resiliency, crisis management, planning, and exercises, even an active shooter when you consider what Baghdad is. I then retired from the Air Force and went to work for Amgen Corporation for 6.5 years as the director of the Worldwide Business Continuity and Crisis Management Organization with global responsibilities. It was there where Al Berman asked Larry Chase of Humana and I to create the architecture for a Foundation Veterans program. We are so excited how far this program has come. From endless planning meetings to a maturing program to a celebrity spokesperson. By the way, thanks again to Patty Heaton, who also had us meet and work with Gary Sinise. The Veterans Outreach Program was created to help veterans successfully transition into resilience career fields. It's an industry-first scholarship program. We've awarded more than $450,000 worth of scholarships. We've grown from a single class to a combination of dedicated training courses. We've accommodated over 200 veterans. Interest in our program is growing. We have courses held at military installations that provide medical care for wounded warriors. In fact, we've had a course where we actually have wounded warriors in the course and their care providers, military care providers in the course with them, which is very amazing, along with their commander. We've established relationships with Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton, Joint Base San Antonio, and MacDill Air Force Base as our center of excellence locations where we come back yearly to visit them and provide training. And DRI has been established as a known character, and we're forming new base relationships almost weekly. Now, being a known character is pretty important because the military gets very picky about who has access to our military that are serving. And so once they know that our intentions are good, then we can do a lot of things and help. We've established relationships at the Pentagon, many bases in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Hawaii, Maryland, Kentucky, Illinois, Texas, California, Nevada, and even in Italy. We even have a strong supporter and major organization known as Headquarters Special Operations Command. We want DRI's training and certification for their Navy SEALs and Special Forces. Imagine that, a future in the corporate America after being a Navy SEAL. It's absolutely perfect for them, and they're so excited. In fact, we had their 2-star Chief of Staff receive a scholarship and take the course. What better PR can you get than when our coveted general officers take this course? Our outreach is expanding. We've doubled from what we were doing in 2018, now in 2019, and we hope to expand some more in 2020. Our scholarship recipients have been featured in the Military Officers Association of America publication. We have also reached military around the world. In December, the 4-star general in charge of European Command has agreed to a meeting to discuss the Veterans Outreach Program and the DRI Foundation. On Monday, I was able to discuss the program with the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army for Personnel. Our goal is to make our leaders aware of our good intentions and the program that we have in place. Our ongoing efforts keep growing. We have a job board for veterans seeking assistance in applying for resilience positions, and we help review resumes from veterans to demilitarize it and to make it look more like corporate America resumes. We're securing funding streams via charitable foundations, and we've expanded our foundation's veteran outreach public relations work. In fact, we have a plan in place where we want to go meet folks at the Pentagon that are responsible for the Armed Forces Network to get a segment filmed on what the Veterans Outreach Program is doing. Now, the Armed Forces Network broadcasts on TV and radio at overseas bases, in combat locations, to ships at sea, and the Pentagon. We are launching a course at Scott Air Force Base in January. We also have a repeat course happening in North Charleston in February and in San Antonio in March. We want to align with the goals of the U.S. Transportation Command and Special Operations Command. And as I said, European Command is going to be happening in December. We are creating alliances working with colleges near military bases to provide free classroom space to reduce costs. So far, we have gotten support from very gracious organizations such as St. Philip's College in San Antonio, Kaiser University in Jacksonville, College of North Charleston, and Elizabethtown Technical and Community College. Well, thank you all for listening. We are open to any ideas on how we might secure more funding with company donations. Please let me know at alantlake@gmail.com, and that's ALANTLAKE. Thank you again. And now I'd like to introduce Al Bremen, President of the DRI Foundation, and Brigadier General Jim Iacocca, President and CEO of the Knox Regional Development Alliance, located near Louisville.
Good afternoon. You've just completed the training course, BCLE 2000. What were your impressions of its ability to bridge the gap between military and civilian concepts?
Well, first, I would tell you that the instruction was first rate. Alan Lake did an exceptional job. He balanced his military experience and his professional business continuity experience to make the class enjoyable and informative for the attendees. He understood his audience and the skill sets within the class. I think the course material was well organized and straightforward, but there's a lot of information, and it really requires you to get back into school mode very quickly. While there are numerous parallels between the military and civilian concepts in the BCLE 2000 course, the instructor's ability to highlight and navigate those parallels is critical.
The DRI Foundation was formed, the Veterans Outreach Program, about 2 years ago, and has overcome the challenges of recruiting students and providing training around the U.S. Our last challenge is to help find jobs for these highly trained individuals. Are there particular avenues that you would recommend we pursue in helping those who have been through the program find employment?
Well, that is a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. I actually think the best avenue to help graduates of your program find work is through some type of DRI outreach program. No one understands or is as well connected in the business continuity community as you are. A web page or forum where your clients, potential clients, and business leaders can find resumes would be a huge step in the right direction. Additionally, as you conduct business continuity professional continuing education, this could be a topic of discussion to help more senior business continuity professionals bring new people onto their teams. The normal transition services that the military provides around the world can help a little bit, but they do not have the knowledge or connections within the communities to have the impact that you can have.
Recently, I had a call from a candidate, and he was discussing the issue of, and his concerns about people who've never served in the military, being somewhat suspect of the ability for senior officers, especially flag officers, to work on a team where they are not in command. Is there any way we can provide guidance to interviewees to help lessen this misconception?
Absolutely, and thanks again for bringing up a point that I hear from business leaders and service members looking for work. First, everyone in the military has a boss, and leaders command those areas that are given to them by competent authority. So the officers that are graduating your program that you're bringing in have a chain of command above them that they must answer to as well. These senior leaders will take charge of the areas you delegate to them or authorize them to control, and then they will clearly understand they answer to you or to their boss in those areas. Additionally, we are by nature and training team players. These officers want to continue to do meaningful work. They're loyal and disciplined employees who will work hard and improve the areas that they are entrusted to maintain. But the key point here is to, again, remember that everyone has a boss, so answering up to someone is not new, and it's even expected from people in the military that you are looking to hire.
I understand that in your current role that you work with civic leaders and military installations, getting everyone working together to enhance economic development in Western Kentucky. In that role, you also have had a chance to discuss what DRI is doing for veterans, not just in the Fort Knox area, but to other economic development organizations around the U.S. and even the Department of Defense. What is your impression when they hear about the Veterans Outreach Program and these scholarship opportunities that DRI has created?
Well, I actually talked to a lot of folks in central Kentucky in the greater Fort Knox and Louisville area, and everyone I have discussed the DRI opportunities with has been overwhelmingly positive. The scholarships offering free training and certification go a long way to establishing your credibility as an organization serious about helping veterans. The fact that the training can lead to a meaningful and lucrative career is another tremendous reason this is so well received when I discuss it with people.
I want to thank you for your time this afternoon. Is there anything else you would like to say or add?
I just want to thank you for establishing the Veterans Outreach Program and your desire to go the extra step and help these veterans find work.
You're very welcome, and thank you for your service.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us today. Next, we'll hear from Amy Bennett and Ramon Signs. We provided these two DRI certified professionals with a series of questions to learn more about their path from the military to the private sector and the lessons that they learned along the way. First, we'll hear from Amy, and then we'll hear from Ramon.
Hi, my name is Amy Bennett. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel from the U.S. Army. I retired 2 years ago after 21 years of service. My background includes military police operations, training, strategic planning, and emergency management. I work for T. Rowe Price as the Assistant Vice President of Business Continuity, where I've been for the past 2 years since my retirement. And this morning I'm going to share with you some information on lessons that I learned transitioning from the military into a business continuity career field. Question 1, explain the connection between the skills learned in the military and how these translate into the business world. So what I found is that military members, particularly officers and senior NCOs, have the ability to balance and distinguish between leading people and managing processes, programs, and information. In the civilian world, so far I've observed that people are often one or the other, either program managers or people leaders. They aren't necessarily even expected to be both a people leader and a program manager simultaneously. However, in the military, as most of us know, we've learned and have been expected to be able to lead and manage simultaneously. And I think that that gives a great leg up for our military veterans and former military members who are applying for positions in this career field. Another skill I learned in the military that translates well into the business world is being able to identify cross-functional stakeholders. In the military terms, think through staff positions or working with internal and external organizations. So to be able to do that in a business environment, identify who those stakeholders are across the organization or external to the organization, and pull them together in order to leverage their expertise is a real skill that is often overlooked on the civilian side. Veterans typically understand how important it is to work together as a team to accomplish a major mission or project, whereas civilians tend to work in silos and oftentimes either work independently or just work as independent teams, and don't often cross the aisle to identify who else should be part of the conversation. So I feel that's a really strong skill set that military members bring to the table in the business world. As well, being confident, briefing other people and senior leaders is another huge leg up. A lot of folks are not comfortable public speaking or being able to present information in a clear and concise manner, and especially when the stakes are high and decisions need to be made. And I feel that military members are able to do that pretty comfortably. As well, we're also able to learn and adhere to processes and procedures pretty quickly. If you just even think within the repertoire of your military dictionary and all of the acronyms that we have to learn, they typically relate to processes or procedures. And we're used to following them, adhering to them, and working within that framework. And that helps when you're learning a new industry and their acronyms, their language, and their organizational culture. Finally, as it relates specifically to a career and business continuity, I feel that veterans are able to think and operate within a resilience framework, able to identify gaps and shortfalls, conduct risk assessments, prevent, mitigate, recover from issues by training and practicing them before something occurs. And all of those skills lend really well to the business continuity career field because that's what we're charged to do. We're charged to think about the organization, think about the worst day in the organization across different business units, and help them identify gaps, shortfalls, conduct risk assessments, and conduct training to either prevent, mitigate, or recover from any pending or any expected issues. Question 2, the experience of transitioning from military to private sector. Culturally, what was that like? What were your lessons learned? And can you provide some insight? For many people, it can be an overwhelming process to transition from the military into the civilian world, particularly for retirees and folks who have been in for a long time. I certainly had my moments when I felt that way, but I also prepared myself for the transition as best as I could ahead of time. I started to, and I would recommend that you start to deliberately build your network at least a year prior to your retirement or ETS, and network up. What I mean by network up is a lot of people want to network using networking apps like LinkedIn. They want to network laterally. They want to network with their friends. They want to network with people who they know or who have maybe worked for them. And what I'd encourage you to do is network up and find leaders across different industries that you're interested in organizations that at least interest you, and network with their senior leadership. And then the next step is to leverage your network. And you want to do this by socializing your resume with people across different industries that you have interest in. Ask them if they would take time to help you translate your skills and experience into industry language, and to ask for opinions on what industries and types of jobs they see you in based on your resume and getting to know you. It really doesn't do you any good to have contacts on a phone networking app like LinkedIn if you're not going to use it. The whole point of sites like that is to help you create and then leverage your network to your best advantage. So I would encourage you to approach preparing for a job in this way and finding a job like it is your job. This was nearly full-time for me. What I found was that I had the luxury of terminal leave, and you may as well, and I used it wisely, meaning I did take some time to relax and decompress, but it was also my intent the entire time to find a job, to start a new career field before my terminal leave expired. And so I was very motivated to set up formal and informal meetings, to leverage that network, and get advice from folks across different industries to figure out where would be the next best fit for me. Firing off your resume, especially if it's the same resume, into the abyss of online job application sites and waiting for a response isn't going to get you anywhere. And a lot of military members don't understand that. They don't realize that when they apply for jobs online, that they oftentimes go completely unanswered and unnoticed. And so they do this thinking they're being proactive, and then they sit and wait. So that's where I want to encourage all of you to leverage your network, learn the civilian language, and start to transition your mentality, not just your resume, into civilian language. Question 3, the value of DRI training and certification. Did the certification help you get the job? So I have a couple examples here. First of all, the DRI certification did not help me get the job because I was able to get my job position before I even knew what DRI was. However, as I'll explain soon, DRI did offer me more industry experience and credibility. So one of the obstacles that I had when I was transitioning out of the military was that I knew that I wanted to get into some area of emergency management. And in my mind, I just kept calling it, like referring to it as corporate emergency management, assuming that big organizations, even some small, depending on the criticality of what they do, must have emergency management positions and plans. And so every time I looked for positions in that field, what I mostly came across were either first responder emergency jobs, like an EMT, or cybersecurity positions, IT and cybersecurity positions that weren't anything that I was qualified to do nor interested in. So I set up a meeting leveraging my network with somebody from our Maryland Emergency Management Agency, one of our senior leaders in that organization, and explained to her what I was doing, what I was trying to do, and expressing my frustration that it wasn't working. And what she was able to share with me was, oh, well, there is something, considered basically a corporate emergency management position, but it's called business continuity. And so, the light bulb went off. I had no idea that term existed and what it meant. She spent time educating me on that career field and what types of opportunities may be out there for somebody like me with my experience and background. And so that helped make my job search easier, and it helped redefine how I approached and looked at things and how I leveraged my network and expanded my network to in a way that would work for me. So once I discovered what the industry terminology is or was for what I wanted to do, it became much easier for me to apply for positions and adjust my resume to each particular job and industry I was interested in. You cannot just have an approach of a one and done resume. Every different industry, every different business that you're looking to work for is going to have some uniqueness that you're going to need to accommodate your resume to meet. How do you do this? You take the job description and read it, thoroughly read it. Reach out to people from the organization or even across the industry that this organization works in, and you ask questions in order to better adjust and prepare your resume to have the best chance in getting viewed and make you an attractive candidate for that job. So I earned my business continuity job by meeting people within my network to get my foot in the door, and then I nailed it in the interviews. I prepared and nailed the interviews. I did this by doing as much online research as I could about business continuity and even to an extent disaster recovery. So I at least understood how they were related to each other. That's when I discovered what DRI was and noticed that they had a veteran scholarship. So I wasn't in a position to pursue anything at that time while I was applying for positions, but the online information on DRI was very helpful as it prepared me for interviews. So once I was in my position and re-engaged with the DRI site, I immediately jumped on the opportunity to apply for their veteran scholarship. Shortly thereafter, I found out that I earned the scholarship, which would cover the course cost and the test cost. And when I informed my boss, that this was something that I applied for and was accepted for, and would he support it, he was thrilled. Not only was he happy that I took initiative to reach out to DRI and to submit this application, but he appreciated the thoughtfulness of DRI in covering costs that would otherwise be charged to my company. So I was the first person on our 3-person team, myself and 2 peers, to earn the Certified Business Continuity Professional Certificate. And this was based on my initiative and DRI's opportunity. The DRI certification gave me more industry credibility, and it also validated for me that my previous military experience in emergency management and operations made me a great fit for this career field that I chose. Question 4. What do you think business continuity professionals who do not have military experience can learn from those who do? What special skills, insights, attitude, etc. do former military bring to these private sector companies? In one word, I would say perspective. Perspective is what military experience brings to the table that BC professionals who do not have our same background can oftentimes lack. Military members, veterans, typically have the ability to function during high stress, volatile times with ambiguous and partial information. The military taught me to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Therefore, I was bringing with me an ease and a comfort with digesting and assessing information quickly, providing recommendations to leaders, and making decisions with the 80-20 rule in mind. That is, oftentimes you only will have about 80% of the information, but due to sense of urgency and time constraints, you oftentimes have to be able to make make a decision with 80% of the information, given your experience and your instincts and the support that you have from your leaders in your organization. And that's really important, because if you're constantly waiting to get 100% of all the information before a decision's made, or before you're comfortable making a recommendation to leaders who have to make those decisions, oftentimes, the business can suffer because of that. Time is money. And in the civilian business world, that's really, really important to keep in mind. However, I also want to say that there's just as much that a veteran can learn and must learn from their civilian business continuity professional peers to learn the industry, to understand what constitutes an emergency in our civilian organization, and when time is of the essence. So it's true that while I'm able to keep a calm and cool temperament when business continuity situations arise and escalate, I also am cautious that my demeanor doesn't come across as dismissive, or that I don't understand and I'm not sensitive to the severity of the problem. So I would ask you to keep in mind that just because a situation isn't life or death and you're not being shot at, it does not underscore how important and how severe a problem is in a business situation. So it's really important that we learn just as much from our non-military civilian counterparts as to when the time is right to get excited, to jump in, and to use all of the military skills that we bring to the table in the best way possible. Question 5, advice to those thinking about hiring a veteran. So unequivocally, I would recommend and advise employers to take the chance on veterans when all things, qualifications, education, etc., are either equal or near equal. Take the chance on the veteran. Veterans have learned perseverance, and because of the constant flux of military moves, PCS moves, or unit personnel moves within your unit due to PCS, ETS, retirement, etc., they've had to learn to adjust and accept organizational change for years. Typically, veterans are loyal people by nature, and they have a desire to put others and the organizations above themselves. Who doesn't want somebody like that on their team? Veterans also have a unique way of seeing themselves and how their role nests with the overall mission of the organization, and therefore want to do their best to ensure their part helps ensure the success of the organization. A lot of civilians don't understand that. If it's not all about them, if they don't understand what everybody up, down, and laterally are doing, they don't accept that they're part of the mission. They're not necessarily the main effort of the mission. And veterans have a great way of being able to adapt and understand that their role is just as important as the main effort, or a supporting effort, or even a secondary effort. They want to be part of the team and help them do their best. Veterans also want to believe in an organization's mission, and they want to believe and follow their leaders. And when they do, their work ethic and contributions are unparalleled. Question 6, advice to veterans thinking about a business continuity career. A career in business continuity, from my perspective, is a great way to leverage your military skills, especially for those people with experience in domestic response. What I mean by this are weather events, infrastructure disruptions, things that oftentimes our National Guards are used to preparing for and responding to. While all MOSs could add value in the business continuity field, I would say that from my experience, military police, engineers, Signal Corps, and IT or cyber specialists all have a great advantage, I think, in understanding what the business continuity field is, what it is we're trying to do within our organizations, and really put their skills, their military skills, to good use. As I mentioned a moment ago, I would also say that National Guardsmen may even have a slight edge here over their active duty counterparts. And I would say that that's because of supporting and having to understand their role in responding to state emergency response missions. Emergency response missions locally or statewide oftentimes are the same types of disruptions and threats and risks that our businesses are experiencing and have to deal with. So it's really important that that we understand, why a weather event, how a weather event can disrupt a business, and how important it is to recover quickly from that. Veterans, as I've mentioned before, are also resilient themselves. They tend to think about training, preparation, developing courses of actions, and second and third order effects. And contingency planning, therefore, it comes as second nature to a seasoned military member. Veterans are also flexible and tend to be calm and able to operate and make decisions under pressure. That's a great skill to have, this temperament in a business continuity field. Pressure in the civilian world can be different than pressure in the military. As I mentioned before, we're typically not dealing with life or death situations, but sometimes we have to. Sometimes we work closely. In my experience here at T. Rowe Price, I work very closely with our global physical security team, and that's to make sure that we are communicating and preparing and training our organization to respond to man-made disasters as well as natural ones. And man-made disasters could entail an active shooter. It could entail a threatening substance in a mailroom, a suspicious vehicle in a parking garage. It may be a cyber attack. It may be helping our organization bring the right people to the table to solve an IT or a process infrastructure issue. So it's really important that veterans and prior military members can apply their perspective, that they can understand when to ramp up, when the stakes are high, and when to look at de-escalation because things are back under control. Those are really important skills that I learned in the military that I'm sure that many of you have as well, and that would make you a good fit for considering a business continuity career.
Hi, my name is Ramon R. Science, Jr. My background includes 7.5 years in the military. I held various positions such as a platoon leader, battle captain, a mortar platoon leader. I spent most of my time in Colorado Springs stationed there and did 2 deployments. I exited the military as a captain, branching infantry. I attended various schools, airborne school, ranger school, an infantry officer leader course, and various medals, Bronze Star, Army Commendation medals, and Afghan campaign medals. For 2015, I decided to leave the military, seeking to enter in the civilian sector. And I am now currently at a Whataburger quick service restaurant in San Antonio, Texas. Currently, I manage and facilitate, working on business continuity, emergency management, and any restaurant disruptions through a 10-state footprint, and roughly also managing 823 units. And currently, I'm continuing to get my master's in my MBA and pushing forward with a certified risk management professional certification, along with my certified emergency management certification. So when I was asked to do this webinar, I thought it was a great opportunity for me to give feedback on how I transitioned out of the military. And I'm going to go over a series of questions here. And the first one that I was asked was the connection between skills learned in the military and how those translate to the business world. Well, Most often, the strongest skill set veterans bring to their civilian occupations are flexibility, self-motivation, leadership, adaptability, and teamwork. Strongest personal characteristics that I find is maturity, dedication, focus, discipline, effective communication, and problem solving. Now, typically, the metric normally applied when in the civilian positions is how well did the individual contribute to the bottom line or profits. In other words, how well did he or she perform the job description? In some cases, the skill sets match up quite well. For example, if you're flying an aircraft or you're in logistics or you're in the medical field or your job is to maintain a nuclear reactor, those are really good examples that are applicable skills that are going to transfer. However, there's no marketing or sales listed in the military occupation. So in the civilian positions, it's dynamic, challenging, and an evolving environment. Former military personnel can be expected to be very successful in this arena. But a static, repetitive function may not match up with what someone transitioning out of the military is wanting to do. So then, really, I would say, as a veteran, as you're transitioning, it would be you need to examine the job and go by case basis and ask yourself, are you really going to enjoy this when transitioning? Do you want a job that's the same thing every day? You can go manage an assembly line, or do you want a job that you're not sure what's going to happen next? Or what would bring that would be a uniformed police officer. The second question that I was asked was the experience of transitioning from the military to the private sector. Culturally, what was that like? And lessons learned and insights. So for me, my experience, the military is very regimented. Every event, military, from promotion, discipline, behavior, dress movement, accountability, pay, it's all laid out in a process after process after process. There's no ambiguities. For the most part, in the civilian world, as there's much less and sometimes not any. Finding your way will take some time to adjust and require a learning curve, I would say about 6 months. But you can actually successfully navigate through this by doing research prior to you starting your job, or if you know what career field you want to go into. And also, most importantly, finding a mentor to help you, that someone who's prior in the military service within the organization or outside. But I can tell you the most immediate challenge normally is the different language that you'll encounter within the civilian job. And what I mean by that is, within, the military, the word potential could mean, okay, middle of the pack, and you never want that, right? But then in the civilian world, the word potential in a review could be, top 10%. So with that, it's very important as you coming in to understand what your organization and what these words means and how reviews work. As an example, another example is in resources in the military might mean logistics and transportation, and the civilian section, it's going to mean money. So typically, military folks are going to operate very fast-paced compared to, the civilian world. So military, we tend to operate to get the job done, and sometimes, in the civilian world, it's, hey, we'll take care of it tomorrow. And I think that's the reason for that is just the environment that we're in and what we're always training for. So you can also expect the amount of responsibility to be vastly less that you saw in the military. Typically, you're not going to be as held as accountable. That's because you're not as responsible for as much. But in the military, for example, there is an expectation as you should aspire to do your boss's job. That is not definitely true or desired in the corporate environment. You will most likely be always expected to stay in your own swim lane, unless specifically invited. What I can say is the lessons learned and insights is to be yourself, you know the experience that you bring to the table, and to focus on your discipline, maturity, and let that be your advantage as you're entering in the workforce. And additionally, certifications, I think I'm a huge proponent of those. I think that those help validate your experience. What I find is most veterans have the experience. By getting certifications allows you to validate, yes, this is true within the civilian world. The next question I was asked was the value of DRI training certification. Did the cert help you get your job? Well, I actually was fortunate enough for Whataburger to hire me, the quick service restaurant, and then I got my certifications. However, once I got my certifications, it opened several doors. It allowed me to network, and you know, what I can say is, again, these certifications validate your experience, and that's what DRI has done. I had the experience, I had the knowledge. It's something I did in the military, and once I got my certifications, just, hey, this is proof within the civilian community that, you know, you have the experience. So again, it's been a huge asset, especially as I continue to grow. It allows me to show, look what I'm doing. I'm continuing to grow and educate myself. The next question was, what do you think BC professionals that do not have military experience can learn from those who do? What special skills, insights, attitudes do former military bring to the private sector? Well, I can tell you again, in the military, operates in a routine process and structure. Military trains as they fight, under duress, and they're always prepping for this big ultimate, you know, the mission, right? And so military planning addresses war-fighting sustainabilities, which correlates exactly to business continuity and resiliency. So military personnel they train for this exact job within business continuity. So they can actually, that being embedded in their DNA, per se, can bring probably some different perspectives. And I also think it works both ways. I think that people within the business continuity that have been doing it within the civilian sector are just as valuable, and the veterans can learn just as much. Next question, advice to those thinking about hiring veterans. Again, veterans are focused, patient, they're quick learners, and most importantly, work extremely well with others and within teams. They can handle change and the dynamic flow and fast-paced environment, and generally are self-motivated. I think in today's environment, you know, change management is one of the most important things that companies need, and that's the military in itself. Always going through change, always adapting, always working together. And as I stated before, the strongest skill sets veterans bring to their civilian occupations are flexibility, self-motivation, leadership, adaptability, and teamwork. And the characteristics you'll see are maturity, dedication, focus, discipline, effective communication, and problem solving. And the final question that I was asked was advice to veterans thinking about a BC career. And what I can say is start early, start now, and while you're in the military. Reach out to anyone that's in that field and find out what exactly it entails. Reach out, I would say, to DRI organizations, ACP, because what you want to do is, again, as you're preparing to transition, or if you're in a current role and you're thinking about going in that field, the best way is to reach out to organizations and mentors and do the homework, and understand also that, you know, not every organization is going to be the same. If you're looking at an institution that's a financial institution that is mandated by certain laws and regulations for business continuity, their program is going to be very vast. And then if you look at like private or non-financial institutions or organizations that aren't bound by law to have a robust business continuity, it's going to be done differently. You know, here at my current job, I've been working very hard in applying my knowledge to the organization and trying to help it grow and and helping any way I can. So that's my advice for if you're really thinking the business continuity field, is really reach out and try to get a feel for it through any kind of mentors or associations. Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate you letting me take the time, and good luck.
Thanks once again to all of our outstanding presenters for taking the time to share with us their experiences and perspectives today. If you'd like to learn more about the DRI Foundation's Veterans Outreach Program and how you can get involved, please visit the Foundation website at the link on your screen. We also encourage you to make a 100% tax-deductible donation to the DRI Foundation and support its efforts with communities rebuilding after disasters. Go to drii.org/donate to learn more about how you can help. The Foundation will also have a booth at the DRI 2020 conference in Savannah, Georgia this March from the 1st to the 4th. Members of our Veterans Committee will be there and are happy to chat, so be sure to stop by. You can register for the event now at conference.drii.org. If you still have questions that we didn't cover, give us a call at 866-542-3744. A recording of this and all our other webinars is posted on the DRI website, drii.org, under the Explore Resources tab. This webinar has been a production of DRI International 2019, all rights reserved. Thank you for your attention.